Welcome back, everyone, to the Gallagher Shots YouTube channel. Unfortunately, we haven't got Andy with us this evening. Apparently, he's ill in bed, so you're going to be stuck with Deka this evening. But I am very pleased to say that we've got Emma on the line from Proud and Palace, the Crystal Palace podcast. Welcome, Emma.
Hi, Deka. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Thanks very much for coming on. So a quick little brief intro for myself here. We're 8-game unbeaten run has finally come to an end after two very different halves against Arsenal at the weekend. Now we're obviously hoping for a good run to see us through to safety. Just very quickly touching on yourselves, I believe it's 1 win in the last 12 games, but you're only 1 point behind us. So Emma, if you could just start off, what's your season been like so far with Crystal Palace?
It's been a difficult season in many ways. I think even when we were doing well, and the way that the middle part of the Premier League works is, around Christmas we were all singing about going on a European tour, and now we're looking underneath us again, and we're in a relegation scrap after a run of bad results. So it changes very quickly. But I think even when we were looking good in the Premier League table, those of us who are there every week kind of sensed that there, but for the grace of a few incredible saves by Vicente Gaeta, we could be much further down the table. So unfortunately, this run of bad form and bad results has felt like a bit of an inevitability, even when the results made it look like we were doing brilliantly. The performances were never great, especially at home. You guys will be pleased to hear our performances haven't been very good at all this season. So I kind of feel like now we're in the position that we've always deserved to be, which is down in that bottom third and in a bit of a scrap, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you say that, actually, because I remember it doesn't seem that long ago when I was checking the league table, and I think you were about maybe, I don't know, 7th or 8th or somewhere around there. And I thought, Hodgson's doing well. Obviously, I guess for yourselves, certainly for fans outside of Palace, it seems to always be Zaha that gets mentioned all the time, as if he's the danger man, he's the threat. How do you feel that it's gone wrong? Like, obviously, I know you're saying that the performances maybe sort of flattered the league position, but what do you think's gone wrong with the team this season?
Yeah, it was Zaha's head's not been right all season, to be honest. Over the summer, obviously, there was a lot of transfer speculation. It happens every summer and every January with him, but this summer it felt like there was more in it, and more in it from his part, and it felt like maybe he was thinking this was his opportunity to move on. And all season he's been very, very hot and cold. He's had a couple of really good games, but nothing like as dangerous as he has been. The other thing that's hit us is that we've had a really bad run of injuries, which every club has, but we've got a very thin squad. We've spent, I think, less than £6 million total in the last 5 transfer windows.
Wow.
So, yeah. And we've produced some absolutely miraculous signings out of that. So Vicente Gaeta, our goalkeeper, was on a free. We've got Jordan Ayew for about 3 million, and he's scored some match-winning goals for us this season. But that's not a sustainable policy in the Premier League. So suddenly, when you've got 5 or 6 of your first team out injured, the people that you're asking to step up aren't the quality that you need to be able to rotate through a squad at this level. So a bad run of injuries around Christmas kind of exposed us, and I think now players' heads are going down because it's a bad run of games. Fans have been turning on the chairman and the board a little bit. So I think a couple of things. Yeah, Wilf, who normally we could rely on to pull a performance out of the hat's been off the boil. And it's just that very thin squad that's got exposed horribly. And now here we are.
Well, to be honest, it sounds like you or us, if that makes sense. You're on mentioned injuries there. We've had, I can't even count how many we've had this season. There's been a lot of pressure or a lot of noise thrown at Bruce's door in regards to maybe from some sections of fans in terms of training methods. Has he been bringing players back too early that they're not ready, which has then been obviously making them get injured again. You mentioned money there again. That's the biggest sticking point, as you probably already know. We're not our owner Mike Ashley's not the biggest fan on Tyneside, that's for sure.
But you've mentioned moaning about our owners, and probably the wrong people to be moaning to, because at least ours have,
I
got
think it's a
vaguely
funny
good
one.
intentions.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Where you're in your own fan base like us, and sometimes all we see is our bubble of Newcastle United, and it's our owners this, our owners that. But what you quickly find is that I know West Ham fans, for example, aren't happy with their owners. You've just mentioned yourself; you're not happy at the moment with yours, and it's kind of like a bit of a trend, really, isn't it, across the league?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's an easy thing to point the finger at, isn't it? And I think especially with Palace fans, there's been a lot of people talking about Harrison Blitzos, two Americans who bought a share in the club a couple of years ago, and their buying shares has coincided with this run of just being incredibly spend shy in the transfer windows. But you never hear from them as fans, so it's very easy to point the finger at them because they're this faceless, voiceless force that's doing something in a boardroom, and that's to do with money, and we're not spending any money, so it must be their fault. Saying that Steve Parish, who obviously is part of the conglomerate that saved the club in 2010, is usually quite vocal. He's done a big interview with the club's YouTube channel today, actually, which I haven't had a chance to watch yet, but some of the reaction on Twitter seems to be sympathetic to him. And I think if you've got owners who who aren't very vocal and who don't come out and engage the fans, they become the easier target for blame. Although yours is a hideous man, I must say. Football or no, I sympathise that you guys have to have someone like him associated with the club. To be honest with you, because you're a great club and you deserve better.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, in terms of hideous, he's been called a lot of things, as you can imagine. I think there's something very telling what you say there in terms of communication, in terms of obviously speaking to fans and sort of being open. Mike Ashley's been like a closed book and has done some really sort of bad things. I'm not going to bore you with any of them, but the thing is now I think it's went so far along the line that when he does come out and speak, it's sort of the damage. It's just there's too much water under the bridge. And even when he does come out and make statements or whatever it may be, they're either orchestrated in a way that the questions aren't that tough, and it's kind of just almost like a statement and not an interview, if that makes sense. I think fans have just kind of they don't really care what he's got to say, to be honest. And obviously in our for ourselves in our summer when Rafa left, of course, that was almost the final straw for a lot of people. So yeah. In regards to Hodgson, then, if we're going to the managers for a second, what's your thoughts on Hodgson overall? And I guess maybe this season, is there any more pressure on him in regards to your league position or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Hodgson. I think he's an incredibly classy manager, and he represents the club very well. He's a good guy. He's worked some miracles with the squad that he's got. I think this season's been the first time that fans have started to question his role in the run of bad form that we've been having. He's got this kind of strategy and approach to games, which is partly forced on him by this paper-thin squad that I mentioned. But for you guys on Saturday, don't expect anything from us in the first 70 minutes. Basically, he likes to try and keep us in a game for 70 minutes by not doing very much and sitting back and trying to just kill any sort of football match, and then try and win it in the 20 minutes at the end. So it's like 70 minutes, everyone's just going through the paces and trying to limit damage, and then they play proper football for 20 minutes at the end, which is partly because he's got a very thin squad, and he hasn't got a huge amount of fit players to choose from, so they're conserving energy. We've also got an incredibly old squad. I don't think we've got any defenders in our first team under the age of 30, which is, yeah, lots of wise old heads if you're going to, lots of wise heads and come under pressure. So that's been his strategy, and it's worked sometimes, but it's just been incredibly difficult to watch. And I think where a few people have raised questions over him recently, it's been, there are good players in our academy, and these players who are 33, 34 are losing at the moment, losing most weeks. So why not give a couple of these young kids a go, and if they lose, then we're no worse off. So it's this fact that his hand's been forced a bit into playing a very negative game and into trying to reduce games to 20 minutes. But then there's the frustration that actually he probably has got some other options there, but he's too conservative to use them, and to that's probably the best way to describe him. He's a very risk averse manager, which can be quite frustrating to watch, because you think, just give something a go, just try and play football for 90 minutes rather than 20. Let's see where it gets us.
So would you say, is it like kind of, I'm not saying shut up shop, but do you just keep it quite tight and just see if, I guess, for the first, as you say, maybe hour, 70 minutes, and then obviously open up? So would you say you're kind of maybe perhaps a counter-attacking side, or?
Yeah, I think we even counter-attacking in the first half, we just kind of sit back and shut up shop. I think it was very recently, as in the last couple of weeks, we scored our first goal from open play in the first half of a match all season. We've been really, really poor at attacking or creating any sort of threat, be that, if we win possession, from defence, there's not the in previous Palace squads, it's bust along trying to sprint down the other end of the pitch and catch people on the break. It's okay, we've got possession, kill the ball, put your studs on the top of it, pass it around the back for a bit, and just try and kill the game off for a while, which
it's very,
Palace
it's very
fan,
strange.
it's very frustrating. For you guys will be infuriating, I'd imagine.
It's funny you say that, actually, because when I think he is at home, I forgive us, I don't know the name of the stand, but there's normally like a bunch of fans you have. If I'm watching the telly, it's normally to the left at the bottom, where them fans always going mental, going wild, great atmosphere. And generally speaking, when I've watched these, I haven't watched this season that much, but just what you've said there is like he's normally bomb on, he's a pressing, really flying down the wings, and like, to be honest, quite an aggressive side in terms of on the attack. But it sounds that it's changed a lot, I guess, this season.
Yeah, and like I said, I think part of that's been enforced by the players that Hodgson's got to choose from, and the injuries we've got, and not being able to instruct players to sprint like that, because that you haven't got a decent replacement for them on the bench, and they've got to be able to get through 90 minutes and conserve their energy. So it's been really quite terrible to watch at times, especially at home this season. Just to give all your fans something to look forward to on that long train journey home.
Well, I'm gonna. You're on about playing poorly. I'll be honest. I don't think you probably will have seen a worse side than us in terms of how we approach games and play games. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a classic on Saturday. Put it that way. I mean, and for our fans at the moment, I mentioned there before that we have been, apart from the Arsenal game, we're unbeaten for 8 games. But being honest, it was probably the most unattractive unbeaten 8 games of all time. We're really, we don't have any of the ball at all. I think you might have seen stats, perhaps yourself on Sky or whatever, where I believe we've only got something like 33% possession, averaging over the season. We're really don't play good football. We've got 2, I would say, exciting players, and that's because obviously they've got paces, Almiron on one side, and we've got St. Maxim on the other. They're the 2 players which I guess give any type of hope really to getting up the field. And we've got Joe Linton up front, who's we're record signing, the number 9. Unfortunately for him, the young lad, he's really struggled as well. But I think that's a combination of not just him. I'm certainly not putting the blame just on him. It's the whole team, And I'd seen a stat that I think we've scored 24 Premier League goals, and you have scored 23, even lower than us, which is just unbelievable. So I don't think there's going to be goals in the game. I don't think, to be honest.
No, unless it becomes a double negative and we end up having an absolute belter and one for the ages. But and I think like you said, we've got a misfiring striker in and Deka, who's had an absolutely torrid time for 2 or 3 seasons now, and it's easy to get on their backs, but then you've got to look at the chances that are getting created for them, and how they're being played into the game.
Yeah.
Some of the chances, and then it becomes a confidence thing, right? Because players who normally score, when they go on those runs, easy chances start to feel very difficult to them.
It's a funny one when you say about Benteke, because I remember him at Villa, where I thought the guy was an absolute beast. I thought he was a really good player. When Liverpool didn't quite work out for him, but then when you signed him, I thought, wow, that's the kind of player we should be after. That's kind of the opinion I had. As you say, it doesn't seem like it has worked for him. But he did score the other day against Everton, didn't he? I think last week or so. So
he did, yeah. We
so,
went on to lose 3-1, so I'm not going to pop open the champagne just yet.
Yeah.
But his first season with us, he scored 17 goals, and we're like, oh, quality. It's just been off the boil ever since. But I guarantee now that you said Joe Linton's on there, and I've seen basically all my Twitter timelines full of Palace fans seeing all the stats about his goal drought, saying that's it. He's gonna get a hat trick against us. Everyone chuck a fiver on it, because it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I actually seen a stat. Sorry, I'm not trying to upset you here, but I seen a stat which said it's now been 56 days since Crystal Palace last won a football game. So you'll only one more day to go, and you'll beat us. So don't worry about it too much. But yeah. So obviously, in regards to both teams, I mean, we are unfortunately very, very close to the bottom. Do you think that we are relegation rivals, or do you feel that maybe we've just done enough that will see it through and being able to stay in the division?
I think we've probably both done enough, and I touch wood frantically as I say that. And I think if either of us do go down, it will be a huge shame. Obviously, I'll be more upset if it's us. But you look at teams who are beneath us. Norwich are unfortunately looking gone, which is a shame, because I like Norwich, they're a good club. Hoping that Brighton get pulled into it. Well, they're in it, but I hope that they go down for obvious reasons. And then I just like to think that in our two squads there's enough quality to keep us up. And the games that we're losing, the Everton one I thought was a horrible result, losing 3-1 to Everton's not a result that should be happening with the squad that we've got. But we're not getting absolutely destroyed. We're kind of in and around games. So yeah, I'd like to think that both of us will stay up. But I think it's whichever one of us, if either one of us is on the end of a defeat after Saturday, I think the fan bases are going to be more worried as a result of that. It feels like a bit of I don't want to call it a 6-pointer, because that's a football cliche that doesn't make any mathematical sense. But it feels like an important one.
It really does, doesn't it? Yeah, for me, it really does feel an important one. And one thing that worries us, and maybe the same for you, sometimes when you do lose a few games, or even just one game, there can be a bit of an uproar on social media, and it's almost like the world's caving in. But I do feel it's a big game, I must admit, on Saturday. Obviously, in the reverse fixture, just touching on that, we were 1-0 in that one, and that was Almiron's first goal for the club, which is, even though he hasn't scored, there's a great deal of love for him as a player. He really works hard for the team. He seems like a great lad, and I think it was an amazing match to be at. Obviously, not on the Palace side of things, but certainly for a Newcastle fan, it was amazing to see him get his goal. That I remember that game was again very, very tight. It was I know we won 1-0, but it really could have went either way, to be honest with you. How do you see it maybe being different down at Selhurst on Saturday?
To be honest, I don't know if it will be much different. We don't play particularly differently at home. We don't dominate possession or approach games differently. And I remember, I think one of the things that Palace fans were frustrated with at the fixture up at your place was it was a late goal, and one of Hodgson's quirks is he's getting better at it now, but he never used to make substitutions until like 83, 84 minutes. So you've got players, just exhausted out on their feet. And then when you do bring players on, they've got 5-6 minutes to get into the game before it's over. So I think that's what frustrated Palace fans up at your place, and I don't know how much difference we've got because we didn't strengthen at all in January. So we haven't. Well, I say that we've got Choke Tosin's in on loan. He scored on his debut for us against Man City. So amazing. He's the Messiah. Then he promptly got injured. Couldn't play against Everton, obviously, because it's his parent club. So maybe he'll make a bit of difference because he does look good and lively as a kind of mobile forward player.
Is he back for Saturday? Would he be back?
Yeah. And he would have been fit to play against Everton, but obviously wasn't allowed to because we got him on loan from there. And even the 2 games he played for us before he got, or 1 and a bit games he played before he got injured, Palace fans were giving him quite a bit of love because he's after 2 years of watching Benteke kind of lumber around up front and loses confidence and any sort of willingness to make a run or scream for the ball. Suddenly you've got this guy up front and he was making these huge sprints, screaming for the ball, got in the ref's face. It was against Arsenal, I think. He was getting scrappy because David Luiz was time wasting for free kicks, and Choke Tosin's there in the ref's face, like having a go and pointing it out, saying, "You seeing this? You seeing this?" And you think, "Oh, hold on, you've got a bit of something about you. I quite like you." So, maybe he'll do something tomorrow. I think, there's a quiet hope from Palace fans about putting all our eggs in the basket of someone who's only been here on loan for 5 minutes. But you kind of got to look for those positives, haven't you?
You have, yeah. It's very similar to ourselves in regards to our window. Ours were just loan signings as well, and we signed Bentaleb, and I think the signing in Lazaro from Inter Milan, who had a good first half against Arsenal, but unfortunately got caught out twice on 2 of the goals for Arsenal. The signing that I think surprised a lot of people, and I think pleased the majority, was Danny Rose from Spurs.
Yeah.
But maybe he's not, for example, up to 100% fitness yet. So in the one area we did not strengthen in was unfortunately striker. With Andy Carroll is injured constantly, and it leaves just Joe Linton really, because obviously Dwight Gale's injured as well, and we've got Muta who's injured. So again, touching very similar to what you said, there's just not many options there really, not enough quality off the bench to change things.
How's Bentaleb doing for you? Because I think that I remember seeing him come to you guys, and everyone was a bit like, "Oh God, I've forgotten about him." He was going to be a bit of a hot prospect, wasn't he? And then where did he go from Spurs? Somewhere in Italy.
Yeah, it was. I've lost us now. He went to the club that we signed him from. Even that's gone from us. I do apologise. It was a German club, but he went over to Germany, and he fell out completely with their squad management and everything. And he hasn't actually played, or he hadn't played a first team game, I think, since March. He was totally out of favour. So obviously we then went in for him. And we were discussing this actually on the podcast on Monday. It was when we were talking about it. He's certainly got quality, like he really has. You can see he's got a good left foot. He's very, very calm on the ball. He doesn't, no matter how many players are around him, he certainly doesn't seem like he's under pressure, or he doesn't feel he is anyway. The only thing that I discussed is the type of midfielder that I think we're missing at the club is someone that is willing to take that ball and maybe carry it. A centre midfielder that's willing to carry the ball. And so far with Bentaleb, it's very much sort of sideways and backwards. It's kind of just nice, safe passing, easy stuff. But he hasn't started too badly, if I'm being honest. Again, I think going back to something you said there about the striker you mentioned there, where sometimes when you sign a new player, you instantly, you want them to be the best, don't you? Of course you do, and you think that this is going to change the world and all of that. And sometimes you can fall in that trap. But to be fair, he's been okay, and he has played most games as well actually since coming in. Because we've got an injury to John Joe Shelby, so Shelby won't be playing on Saturday. So again, that probably Bentaleb will play in his replacement. So, in fairness, actually, we'll come on to this one is regards to your fans' opinion or your own opinion of Newcastle. What's your thoughts on us as a team, as a club, anything like that, really?
Yeah, I think the Palace fans have got nothing but respect for Newcastle as a fan base and as a club. I think we've not, well, who knows, it might change on Saturday, but we've not got any historical beef that would cloud our judgment, I don't think. So you can just look at it as really good set of fans. I think our only complaint would be the steps up to the away end. That's always it's kind of a feeling of dread across the whole fan base of having to hike up those once we get up to your place.
Yeah, I don't.
And I think just I mentioned it before. It's just sympathy for the situation with your owner and some of the stuff that's happened on a club level in recent years. Like I said, Rafa going over the summer. I think there's a little bit of and I don't know if this is going to sound horrifically patronising or anything, but when Leicester won the league, everyone was like, "Oh my God, that could have been us. That could have been us." Oh, any club had a chance to win the league there. And then you look at the way that Mike Ashley's handled things with your club, and there's also a little bit of like, "Oh my God, that could be us." Like we're a bad owner away from having to deal with all of that as well. So I think there's a universal appreciation and sympathy for a really great historic club and a really brilliant set of fans who don't deserve the owner that they've got and deserve an owner that's going to actually respect it and do things the right way with the club. I work with a couple of Newcastle fans who have more or less just walked away from the club until he's gone and said, do you know what? Like, I obviously still love the club, but I can't go up there and watch a game or engage with it in the way that I used to because there's something kind of so toxic about it now. So I think my nothing but admiration for the club and for you guys as fans, but huge sympathy for that side of it and the impact it's had on the club.
Yeah, I think that's very spot on. To be fair, I mean it's always interesting to hear what other fans think of ourselves. And it seems to always be the same thing as that, passionate fans, they'll travel up and down the country, full support, but unfortunately sympathise in the owner department of how things are going on. And it's just, I guess it is what it is. And you're right in what you say. There's a lot of fans since when Rafa left. That was the final straw of sort of what the final card Ashley's played. That fans have said, I'm not going to be going back. But having said all of that, the attendances at home, for all the atmosphere has been dreadful, the attendances are still at the minute a full house. That was due to a lot of tickets being given away for free. I have to get that in there, but there's still fans going back. But I must admit, it's never been the same since Rafa left. If I'm being really honest with you.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? I think under Rafa, you think about like the trajectory of clubs and how things are going, and under Rafa you felt like, okay, we could be on the beginning of something now, and then it's like pulled out from under your feet, and it's like you're walking up a hill and someone's just sprayed a hose and pushed you back down it.
It's a funny one because I'm myself personally, I always try to be glass half full. It's just the way that I am. I always try my best to look at the positives and things like that. But I think about it quite often, and it's like when we had Rafa as manager, I felt like personally we were about 2 or 3 players away from being competitive. Of course, when I say competitive, I certainly don't mean top 4s and 5s. But what I meant was is middle table, never really in danger of going down, and having the opportunity perhaps to maybe push over the years to the Europa League 7th, 8th position, and that's just for 2 or 3 players. But now that he's gone, I feel that we're a million miles away from being able to be that club, which is so sad when you think it was kind of there, the chance was there to push forward, and as you've just mentioned, the rug's been pulled from under her, really.
That's a shame.
But it's awful. But so sorry, the last thing really is in terms of a score for the match, really, and also the end of season prediction for yourself in terms of how. I know you mentioned before that you don't think either will get dragged in, which is fine. And in regards to the match on Saturday, what's your thoughts on the score?
I think it will probably be 1-1 on Saturday. There won't be more than 2 goals total. I think even that, I'm thinking, gosh, I'm predicting an exciting game there, aren't I? It's all relative, isn't it? And yeah, I think we'll both end up in the sort of 14th, 15th spots. I'll give Palace 14th and you guys 15th because
That's fine. That's fine.
it's a Palace fan spice. How about you? What's your prediction?
It's a strange one because if I'm being honest, and I don't mean this to sound awful, but obviously for not winning for that long, you know, when I was reading there and seeing the bad run you on, of course I wanted to. I'm trying to be positive and think we should be able to go there and get a win, but I just can't say it. So I was going to say 1-1 myself, but I feel like I'm checking out there, so I'm gonna go 0-0. So yeah, so
A one to look forward to then. Last
I
on match
know.
of the day.
It certainly sounds it, doesn't it? In regards to position, I'm with you on that. I think it'll be maybe about that, 15th, 16th, or 14th, 15th. Much of a muchness, to be honest with you. And that's it. But I'd just like to say thanks very much for coming on, Emma. Really appreciate it.
I know it's been fun. Thanks.
And
And yeah, good luck for the rest of the season, apart from on Saturday.
Yes, same to you. I hope you enjoy the game, but not too much. All the best.
All right. Cheers, Deka.
Thanks very much.